Is that quite right? I can't quite see through there. What's the problem here? Let's take a look. Can't quite get it in focus. Is that the problem? Maybe we need to play with one of these knobs. I don't know. All right. Okay. Yeah. Doesn't seem to be doing it. Am I getting the tree? Is the tree in the way? Why can't I see? Makes it seem so easy on the box.
What is he doing? What? I'm gonna have to put my book down. Pastor Steve, what are you doing? Why are you messing around with the telescope? Oh my God, he's not even paying attention to me. I bet he can't even hear that I'm here. Pastor Steve! I'm gonna have to get down on my chair. Pastor Steve! Hey, can you even hear me, Pastor Steve? Oh my goodness, he's up at the window. Pastor Steve! Hey, Pastor Steve! Man, he is really like in his own little world. He can't even notice I'm here at all. Pastor Steve! What is he doing with his face pressed up against the glass? My goodness. This house could be on fire. He wouldn't even notice. Pastor Steve!
Man. Maybe one more try. Is that quite right?
Well, if he's not going to pay attention to the person right beside him, I got to get his attention in the only way I know how. Hope this doesn't scare him too much. Hey, Pastor Steve! Pastor Steve? Hey, maybe do you want to take your eye out of the telescope and maybe we could talk? Hello? Hello, Pastor Steve? It's your old pal Al. Hello? What are you doing?
Al? Oh, Al, you startled me. I thought I was seeing something flying in the sky or an alien or a giant or something. What are you doing in front of my telescope besides giving me a panic attack?
Wait, Pastor Steve, I wasn't trying to make you have a panic attack. I've been trying to get your attention with just normal ways like talking or saying, hey, you, or coming up to you. But you seem to be so focused on looking, I don't know, out there into outer space or off in the distance or whatever. You didn't seem to be paying attention. Only thing I knew to do to get your attention was just talk right in here and see if you could see me here. It looks like it worked, but my question for you, Pastor Steve, is what are you doing with the telescope like this? I sure hope you're not trying to see the stars. You know you can't see them in the daytime, Pastor Steve.
Oh, I know, Al. I know you can't see the stars in the daytime. I know I wasn't trying to actually look up in the sky. I was thinking a telescope is good for seeing long distances, right? The stars, the planets are all super far away. So I was thinking maybe if I aim this in the right direction, I would be able to see where Jesus lived, to see all the way to like ancient Israel maybe somehow and see Jesus.
I'm sorry, you want to see the who now and the what? You think that your telescope is going to let you see Jesus? Pastor Steve, I am very confused about this, and I do not know why you thought a telescope is the right way to see Jesus. Please do tell.
Well, actually, Al, I think this is one of my cleverer ideas. I know that it might seem unusual to use a telescope, but here's my thinking. See, I was thinking of this Bible story where Jesus is alive and risen from the dead. It's the same day Jesus had risen from the dead, so like that first Easter Sunday, and Jesus appeared. He was walking along the road with some of his actual disciples on the road to a village called Emmaus, which is outside of the city of Jerusalem. So I was thinking, Jesus alive and risen, and that's where he was spotted. So if I just get my telescope pointed in the right direction, if this thing could see stars that are, millions and millions of miles away, why not use the telescope and see if I could maybe spot Jesus, if I could just get the telescope to line up with the right spot. I think maybe I just need to get between those trees out there, maybe get a clear line of sight.
Yeah, Pastor Steve, look, I hate to burst your bubble, but I do not think that this is the right tool to see Jesus. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I understand, yes, there is a Bible story where Jesus is alive and risen from the dead. There's actually a lot of them. We hear a lot of them here in these Sundays after Easter. And yes, it's true that Jesus alive and was spotted there on the way to a town called Emmaus, and you're right, that is near the city of Jerusalem, and you can find that on a map, and yes, that is like today in the modern country of Israel. But even if you had a telescope that could see, or even if you went right there to Emmaus right now, that is not the way you see Jesus. This is not the right tool for the job. I admire that you want to see Jesus, but Pastor Steve, this is not the way to do it.
You don't think my telescope's the way to go, huh? All right, I have a contingency plan. Maybe do you think this is the right tool? I got one of these online. It's like one of those old-fashioned navigating tools. I think they used to call it a sextant. And maybe since it's old-timey, you could use it to find somebody who lived in Bible times. Do you think if I just aim this in the right direction, maybe it's got these cool things that you can flip up? Would that be part of it somehow? What do you think? Is this it? Here, see, take a look.
Yeah, I see what you're holding to me, Pastor Stephen. Yes, that is sort of an old-timey device they use for navigation and again, measuring the stars and maps and things, but I don't think it's a matter of having the wrong equipment, Pastor Steve. This is not how you see Jesus. In fact, that's the whole point of the story that you're talking about, where Jesus appears on the walk to Emmaus. Is not about finding Jesus or seeing him with the telescope or an old-timey sextant tool or something else like that. That's not how you see Jesus. He appears to us in a different way.
In a different way, huh? You don't think this will do the trick, or my telescope? What do you mean? How do we get to see Jesus now? Is it possible, or is it something I just can't hope for anymore? How do I know that Jesus is really, really, really alive, really risen, and how can I know it? How can I experience him?
I understand, Pastor Steve, that we all want to get to see or know or experience Jesus' presence. I get that too, sure. I'm not saying you should give up on that. But I'm saying, let's think about the story that you actually mentioned, right? So you were talking about Jesus, and he was alive and risen from the dead, and two of his friends were walking along the way to a town called Emmaus. And Jesus showed up, but they didn't recognize him. They didn't know it was Jesus. But he's walking along and asking them why they're sad, right? You know this story?
Right. So they don't recognize him, and Jesus sort of asks them why they're sad, and he asks them, what's wrong, and they tell him about Jesus. They say, "Haven't you heard about Jesus?" And Jesus, who they don't recognize, sort of asks them more. Well, tell me more about this, and then Jesus explains to them that it had been God's design all along. God's way of saving the world was the cross, and that Jesus going to lay down his life at the cross and rising again was exactly what God had designed all along. And they're so surprised and startled.
And do you remember what happened next in the story?
Next in the story. Oh, okay, yeah, I do remember. The two other friends, the two disciples, they are almost to their house, and they say to the stranger, they don't know it's Jesus, so they just think he's a stranger. Stranger, how about you come to our house, because it's getting dark, and it's almost dinner time, so how about come to our house, and you can have supper with us for the night, and have a place to stay for the night. And Jesus, again, who they don't recognize, comes to their house, and they're all sitting at the table, right?
Right, and so they're at the table, and you remember what happens next?
Let me see. Okay, they're sitting at the table, and Jesus, this is a little bit weird, I guess. Jesus, who should be the guest, they should be serving him. He takes the bread that's there at the table, and he blesses it, and he breaks it, and he gives it to them. And in that moment, they realize, their eyes are open, and they realize it's been Jesus who's been with them all along. Like Jesus had been there on the road with them, and Jesus was the one they invited over, even they didn't recognize him. Jesus had been there at the table. They realize it there in the breaking of the bread.
Right, so does that help you with any ideas for how we might see or know Jesus' presence now? Since they recognized him in the breaking of the bread?
Ha! Now I'm catching your clever hints, Al. I know what you mean. We need a toaster! Now, how do I find Jesus in the toaster? Will he appear on the bread?
Pastor Steve. No. You do not use a toaster to find Jesus. And no, Jesus' image will not appear on a piece of toast. No matter how many stories you see in the fake newspapers about that in the grocery store. Nope. No, that's not what I'm trying to tell you, Pastor Steve. You don't need a piece of technology. Not a toaster, not a telescope, not one of them old-timey mappy things. At the end of the story you're talking about, Jesus shows up. He's been there with them all along, but they realize he's been with them. He's been present with them in the breaking of the bread. We still do that, Pastor Steve. You don't need a toaster for it. You certainly don't need a telescope for it. God's people, we keep breaking that bread together the way Jesus taught us, right? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh, of course. It was there right in front of me all along. I don't need a toaster or a telescope. Jesus comes and shows that he's with us, among other places, when we celebrate Jesus' meal, right? When we gather together and there we break the bread like Jesus did, and we share the cup in what we sometimes call Holy Communion or the Lord's Supper, part of our weekly worship, and we realize that Jesus has been with us all along. So we don't need to go see him somewhere far away, like get my telescope out and seeing him, half a world away across an ocean. I don't need a toaster. We need each other and Jesus' words and this ordinary stuff like bread and like the cup, huh?
Right. And don't forget the other place Jesus promised to be present. He said that he'd be with us whenever 2 or 3 are gathered in his name. So even just when a couple of his followers are together, Jesus says he's there with us. And even if we don't see him like a person in the room, he's there all around us and between us and among us. And yeah, in the bread and the cup when we celebrate communion. He's there in the water with the Spirit when someone is baptized. Jesus comes not far away that you need a special tool or a telescope to go see him. You don't need a piece of technology to find him. Jesus comes and meets us wherever we are, and then our eyes are open and we realize he's been with us all along.
I was trying to use my telescope to look for Jesus like he's far away, like I could only spot him in that one place that he shows up in the Bible story, huh? And you're reminding me that we don't have to look far away to see Jesus. He comes to be with us all the time, wherever we are. And it's just sometimes we get those really helpful, beautiful reminders that he's with us. Like you say, in the bread and the cup when we celebrate communion, or just when 2 or 3 of us are gathered in Jesus' name together, in those places, in ordinary places, without any technology. Jesus has been there all along, but now we can see him, huh?
Exactly, Pastor Steve. And maybe once you realize that it's not about finding Jesus far away, like out the window and over the horizon, but right around us in ordinary things like bread and wine and each other, well, then maybe we could start paying attention to the people right around us where Jesus might be trying to get through to us. So, maybe, just a little bit of helpful suggestion there, Pastor Steve. Maybe the next time someone's right beside you, like tapping you on the shoulder saying, hey, maybe pay attention to them before you get lost looking out the window or staring up at the sky like there's nobody there. And maybe we'll discover Jesus isn't far away, but right with us all the time.
Thank you, Al. Thank you for helping me to recognize Jesus around us right here and not having to look far away to see him. I'm going to do my best now to recognize where Jesus is showing up right at my side and the people around me in the ordinary places, not having to look far away. Thanks for helping me recognize that, Al.
So I'll tell you what. How about you and I go put the toaster back, and how about we pull down this curtain? I'm worried the neighbors will think you're trying to look in their windows. Yeah, let's do it.